All right, looks like we're good to go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another Moonshire Monday. Very excited to be here. Today we're going to be working on some artwork, some pixel art, got some graphic design, some SVG stuff. Specifically, I'm going to be showing off some of the logo updates that I've been making because there's a Moonshire logo. You can see it like on my channel or maybe even on this stream's thumbnail, but it's been quite a while since I had that commission and since we've worked on it, so I spent some time working on the logo, just working things around and changing things, and we're just going to check that out a little bit. And another thing is that I am going to stream tonight on Twitch. So there's a problem where this time right now, 10 a.m. CT, is a bit inconvenient for some people. You know, it's the middle of the workday for a lot of folks. So I'm going to do a second stream today. I'm going to test it out for a few reasons. One, so people in a different time zone will be able to stream together and hang out for a little bit. But also, the overlay above me, all that stuff is custom software. And it currently, all I've been testing it on is YouTube. And over this past week, I spent some time making it work for Twitch as well. So I'm going to be trying that out on Twitch to make sure that the software works there. Another Moonshire stream, or just a general gaming stream. I'm going to stream Eugenics tonight, because that's what I've been playing a lot. It's pretty fun. It's a fun game. So tonight it's going to just be a test of the stream, test of the overlay chat, and also I just feel like playing Eugenics because it's very fun. If anyone out there has not tried out Eugenics, I really recommend it. It's really fun. It has some weird quirks, you know, but really like it. My Twitch it's also Chalcade. But let's get started. I'm going to show off the logo stuff first. And actually, I could probably show... There's a few versions of the logo that I kind of want to share. And give me a second while I pull it up. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm sorry about... Part of my challenge is that I'm on my Mac, and I don't know how to use Mac very well. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is the original logo. Okay, so there's the first one. And then I made a new draft over the past week. Move that in. And this is a different one. Right here. So they are really similar. When I put them side by side, they really do look similar. I took a lot of the similar ideas, especially this moon shape for the double O's. I think that that was a really good idea. So for anyone that doesn't know, this first logo is a logo that I commissioned an artist for, and I really like it. I love this original logo, and really, like, I'm looking at it now. It's still really good. It's still a good logo. I still like it. But I thought I could use a bit of a touch-up, so I tried this bottom one. This bottom one is one that I made myself, kind of using this first one as a guideline, but I worked with different fonts, and I kind of want to show that process as well. Not the biggest fan of the new R. Let's check that out. Yeah, so that's the thing, is that I'm with you that there are still a bunch of quirks with this bottom one that I think still need some adjustments. I could see some changes on the R. Also, the M is a little bit misshapen, I think. I think I need to do a little bit more sculpting. It's also a bit inconsistent. The moon for the eye is neat. Thank you. I think that it's a little bit inconsistent where some of the curves are like curvy and some of them are sharp. At least with this first logo, it's very consistently sharp. And this one has some sharp points and some curved points. And I think I need to make it more consistent. And the way that I was experimenting and iterating on this logo is I have the same process for pretty much all artwork that I do, which is to make a very big collage. And so this is like my progress of how I generated and created the logo. And I wish that I was able to show this from the PC that I developed from, because a lot of the fonts that I tested things out with aren't showing up because they're not on this PC. I'm streaming from Mac, so it looks a little bit... Yeah, like a lot of these fonts up here are just straight up missing. But My process for working on this logo was I literally had the original logo right here, and then I went through and found all the M's that I liked, all the N's that I liked, in every single letter, and just like started combining them together and pushing them together and warping them around and creating new custom shapes. Like here's where I started working on the little moon-shaped eye thing and organizing them within the rectangles to have it organized and aligned and stuff. Over here is where you can start seeing it come together a little bit more. And like you can see, I love this collage setup just because you can see the progress just as it happens. And I can always refer back to these little points. So like up here, I can see some of the original letters that I tried. And here's one of the earlier attempts of the M. So another reason why I do this this collage setup is that if I ever make a mistake, like let's say I was working on this moon here and I accidentally like got ambitious and I'm like, maybe it would look better if I took this M over here and like let's squeeze this side in like that. So like maybe I was thinking the original Moonshire logo up here has this thin left side of the M, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I could try that. So that's something that you could try. And then when I'm seeing it side by side with the original, you know, I kind of think the wider one still looks better than having it trimmed off like that. But it's nice having it side by side. And then also, I have both of them, and I don't need to worry about losing progress. That's my main thing, is that it feels really bad with art whenever you lose progress, whenever you make something cool and then like your computer shuts down and you lose any sort of cool thing that you did. Because with me, at least, whenever I draw something or create some kind of artistic thing, I have a hard time doing it again, or it takes me a long time to do this. Like this is multiple days of work of researching fonts and warping the letters around to figure it out. And if I'm being honest, when I look at the side by side, I wouldn't say that the new one is that much better. There are certain parts that I think are better, but there are certain parts of the original that I think are better. So I think this does need more work. Try to take like the best aspects of both of these and put them together into something nice. Like the eye, I think, is better. I think that I like this S, and I like the moon shape having the bigger inside hole. I think that reads a little bit nicer. The other thing that I like about my logo is that the letters kind of mesh together well, compared to up here. Like this gap between the S and the H, there's just a lot of empty space here, and I tried to fill it in a little bit more over here, where you can see that the H kind of like angles in to the space where the S leaves. And I try to do that kind of with all of these, where, and especially with the M and the N, you know, that's something that the original artist did up here a little bit too, where the N kind of curves in to the moon shapes, but I kind of took that a step further. And really over here, I'm thinking that this M probably needs to be adjusted a little bit more. I really, if we do like a little comparison thing, this is how I measure things in Inkscape, is I take a little rectangle. Okay, so the gap between this moon and this moon is about this size. Okay, it looks similar, but up here, it gets... Yeah, it does widen out up here, so I think that I need to fix that. The amount of work you put into this is amazing. It shows your love for this game. Thank you. Yeah, I really do care about it. I work on it every day, and I really want it to be the best that it can be. So I'm gonna try moving this over like that. You can kind of see a little bit of like weird wonkiness to it. I wonder if I can fix that. Oh, here's part of the problem. Part of the problem is that there's just too many of these dumb points that get generated. The way that vector art works is it's all like lines and math. So instead of like drawing strokes of, instead of drawing like in a paint program, you would stroke and draw lines. Here instead, you kind of like use these points to calculate vector positions. And that makes the whole process very mathematical. And the result is that you have an image that can scale to any size. Let's move this down like that. This game is very good and very interesting. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That looks okay. Now the bottom kind of looks a little bit too... I might have overdone it a little bit. Let's try. Also, I think I want this to be a flat side up here. So let's try changing this to a... like that. We're going to move this one over. Whoops. I need to get rid of this. I'm going to move this over. I think that the logo will look better if I make more sharp edges like that. The curves look good in places where the curves lead into the next letter. But in cases where it's like this blobby section up here, I don't think that looks good. Especially when I compare this curviness up to the sharp M up here. I'm watching Epic the Music while watching my drawing profile picture. Interesting. I'm surprised you're not using a grid of some sort. Yeah, actually, that probably would be better. If I'm being honest, that would be better. The reason why I don't is because I don't feel like the rigidity would help me too much at the moment. And a grid, for me, like this yellow bar here, accomplishes essentially the same goal for at least the alignment part. But the spaces in between here, that is tricky. Yeah, my hacky solution of using a square probably is not the best idea. Using a grid probably would be better. But then you have to have it like really specifically organized within the grid. And you can see that there is a grid in the background of Inkscape. It's just I have the images very, very big. In fact, I could probably try shrinking it down and we can test what that's like. The thing about vector art is you can scale things up and down as much or as small as you want. Oh, actually, when you zoom in, like the grid in the background doesn't change, so there's not actually a grid. I bet there's a way to turn on a grid, but I'm not going to do that right now. In a game jam, need idea for the theme. Everything goes, but not everything is allowed. Well, just keep the idea simple, and really you can get started on whatever the theme is. Try and come up with just like the most basic concept. But I'm with you that the idea process for a jam is really tough because you have to think of an idea that can work within a very, very short amount of time. Is there a theme? You said everything goes. I'm not quite sure. Normally the game jams have a theme, and that's a really, really helpful starting point. The diamond and the O pops so much more in the second logo. Thank you. Yeah, and actually, I kind of want to show how I made. Oh, I wonder if I can show how I made the star shape, because it's really I can. So this star shape that the old artist made right here, that is used for the O of Moonshire. I wanted to make the inner like section to be bigger, like I have on this side over here. And the question was, how do I make the inner hole bigger? Because this is an image. I could bring this image into something like MS Paint and then manually like erase parts of this inner portion. But then I don't know how I would make it very equal. So what I ended up doing is I just recreated it, and I'm actually gonna do it live right now to show how I made the shape, because you can't just like cut out cookie cutter pieces from the inside of a shape like this, or at least if you can, I don't know how to. So here's how I did it. Is I made a circle, then I converted the circle into the point data like this. Then I took this right point and I deleted it. Then I moved these anchors up and down. So now I have a semicircle. Okay, and then you can add an additional point between these. So now I have a point right here in the middle. And I can take this point and move it inward like this. And then here, I'm going to take these and move them out like this to make it curved. I'm just eyeballing it. I think it needs to be... Oh, you know what? That's actually not going to work here. Let's... I need to add one more set of points. There we go. So I'm going to put this one. This. I might actually put the point here, or I can just move this manually down. Well, I don't want to do that because it's not going to be symmetrical. I'm sorry, I'm just like talking out loud. I'm adding a lot of different points, but I'm going to delete all of these two and these two. And then here, we're going to move this one in like this. And then I'm going to move it in farther like that. Okay, and then I'm going to pull these anchor points out. And then now, so what I did is I created one half of it. And now I can take this piece, flip it, and put it together. And then there's these alignment tools. I'm going to use this one. Okay, and that's how I made it. That's exactly the process I went through for this one. It's just two pieces stuck together. Oh, the theme itself is everything goes, but not everything is allowed. Huh, that's an interesting idea. Everything goes, but not everything is allowed. That makes me think of like, I don't know. That's a really interesting idea. That's a hard topic. That reminds me of something like a no honor fight, or some kind of like MMA fight where they are just going all out, no rules. Just like no rules at all. But then it says not everything is allowed. So there could be one constraint, or like every fight there's one constraint that changes the context of everything. So like imagine like Smash Bros and you're fighting each other, and then one round has no jumping and then one round has no shields. Maybe that's kind of the direction I would start taking things, but at the same time it needs to be much simpler than that. It needs to be like small scale game, and doing something in a small scale. So I'll actually, I'm going to take a step back. My example would be Pong. I'm always going to start with Pong. What would I do where everything goes but not everything is allowed? What would Pong with everything goes even look like? That makes me think of like the paddle can move upwards. It can go anywhere on the screen. That makes me think of everything goes. Also, everything goes, that's kind of like a double meaning. Goes meaning like movement. Everything goes. How about this? Everything goes meaning everything moves. How about a game where everything goes, where everything moves around, everything is going, but not everything is allowed? So maybe, how about this? Everything is like entrance into a club. It's like all this stuff is trying to get into a club, but not everything is allowed. But maybe something other than a club. What is the discussion about? There's a game jam that a viewer was talking about, musical keys. The theme is everything goes, but not everything is allowed. Pong mentioned, oh yeah, that's pretty much how it always is. Bob, hi, welcome in. So I think that is about all I can really speak on that. You can see here that there's actually some asymmetry with this example that I made. What I would probably do is take the point that's all the way inward and move it like here, like that. So that's gonna make the inner hole smaller, but it's probably gonna be more symmetrical, which I think is more important. Then we align them. Whoop, not like that. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you can actually see the seam between the two circles. It's very, very subtle. In fact, if I zoom in, it goes away. It's just like a rendering error. This is Inkscape? Yes, it is. I love Inkscape. Inkscape is free, and it's probably my most used art program alongside Sprite, because I use Sprite a lot as well. A game about being a traffic manager. That's a great idea. That's a really perfect example of what I was trying to get at, where everything's moving, like cars. Cars are always moving, everything's moving, but not everything is allowed. Like there's certain areas that are off limits. I love that. That's a really, really good take. I love the double meaning thing, where the if the game jam has a theme, it's fun to think of like an unexpected twist. GMTK game jam, because I remember going through the game jam results for GMTK and thinking, oh, that's funny. They came up with a weird twist on the idea that's really outside of what the topic really intended to be. Where does it say the theme of this one? Are you kidding me? Where does it say the theme? I'm actually really annoyed. Overview here. What is going on? That's a 2025. I know. I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see what the theme of this jam was. I don't want to watch the video. I mean, I guess I can. Oh, jeez. I'm actually furious that it doesn't say... I'm actually annoyed. Okay, we're done with that. I'm so annoyed. I tried to pull up the GMTK Game Jam, but it doesn't say the theme anywhere? What? That's so stupid. That's so dumb. I was trying to give an example of a cool theme where people come up with different ideas, but it doesn't even say what the theme is. I'm not gonna spend any more time on that. The theme was loop? Oh, well now I feel like I fell for it. No, that just made me mad. Okay, we're gonna work on pixel art. Because in the game, there are things that you can attack, and what do I think of Pikmin? I like Pikmin, but my big problem with Pikmin is that it's on a timer. So at least Pikmin 1 and I think Pikmin 3, those games have like a day-night cycle. As soon as the day goes away, then the day ends, and you only have a certain number of days. What I'm going to do, by the way, is work on some debris, because if we run the game, there are some areas... Oh, here's another logo that I attempted to make. This one's another... Yeah, it really doesn't look good as pixel art, does it? So really, there's 3 logos that I should have been showing. So there's these 2, and then there's this middle one as well. I like this one. Yeah, I like this one too. Do you want to know what a big problem with this middle one is? The middle one is the goat. I do like the middle one, but here is the big problem with the middle one. Is that as soon as... Because I made this middle one as well. Man, everyone likes the middle one. I'm happy that you guys like the middle one. And I think there are some aspects of it that I should pull into the new one. But my big problem with that font is that it's an open source Google font. Oh, what is the name of it though? I don't know how I would find the name of that font. But what I'm getting at is, as soon as I made this logo, I started seeing this font everywhere. As soon as I made this, I'm like, oh, I started seeing this font used all over the place. And I don't want to use a font that's like everywhere. I don't want it to be too recognizable. Like this Moonshire font up here, this top one, I never see this font anywhere. But this font here, I see it a lot. I think you could make the O moon, also the game name Lewis makes sense. Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, I think that the O's for the top and bottom one are pretty good. That's a font. The top one, these top two are based on fonts. This middle one is based on a font as well, but I did make edits to it. Like the N I made edits to, the moon shape I made edits to, and the M, and so like this is an edited version, but it is still based off of a font, and like the S and the M shape and the like the O. If you look at this O shape, I guarantee you will see this O in fantasy games. An example is I play RuneScape, and they use this font in RuneScape promotional materials. And I'm like, oh well, dang it. They're using this open source font. I don't know if I should be using it. The top one is more simple. I think all three of these have something about them that is better than the others. I think that there is, like, between these three, if all three of these had a baby somehow, it would turn out to be the best logo. But I want to make the bottom one work. So I want to take the top two best aspects and try and improve the bottom one to make it look better. Because the bottom one is the most sculpted, unique font. This font doesn't exist anywhere else. It's based off of some Microsoft fonts, but I think, but it's all like really custom sculpted, and the size and thickness of all the letters is different. Middle one is best. I do like the middle one. Here, let me actually pull up the high-res version of it. Oh, I found the font name. It's called Cinzel. Okay, so this is the font that I was using for that middle font. And like I was saying, Google Fonts is so good. This site is amazing because there is so many fonts that you can work with, and they're all public domain, or not public domain. The license is very generous. So these fonts get a lot of usage, and that means that you'll see like the same letters in lots of places. Because if I type in Moonshire, okay, and then this is my edited version. So let's see what I changed. This was a while ago that I made this more version. So you can very clearly see now that I based this middle version off of this font. Like it's so clearly the same thing. But there are some differences. Like the moon shape here I added. I made the N much thicker and the lines are less long. I took the I from the original Moonshire logo and put it in here. And I fixed the E because the E is ugly. The bigger O on the moon and on the I's dot. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you saying that because there we go. So these are the three logos. So when I look at these three, like I was saying, I think there are good things about all three of these. Why are all the letters capital except for the I? Just stylistic choice. Actually, the reason why is because a capital I is the least interesting letter. The middle one looks pretty good, but the top one's not bad either. I'm with you. I like this S the most, this curly S. I think I like this R the most. And I don't know, maybe I like this M the most. But I like these O's the most for this bottom one. I like these O's the best. Someone earlier said that they don't like the E, but I like the E. I think that the E on the bottom one is my favorite. The M is amazing on this one. The middle one. Middle one looks pretty good, but yeah, exactly. And this is, I'm with you that this middle one potentially does look the best, but I definitely can't use this M because this M is way too common. It's like I see it everywhere, and that just comes with the territory of working with, you know, open source or free fonts, because when you do that, they're available to anyone, and since they're available to anyone, that means anyone can use this font as part of their logo. So as part of like making a logo, it does need to feel distinct. And I also like when I finish this logo here in the middle, I'm like, this is it. This is perfect. I can't possibly improve on this anymore. And then I was like, yep, we're gonna stick with it. And I just started seeing the letters everywhere, and I couldn't unsee it, so I had to change it. That's why I made this bottom version. And I'm very confident that I will not see these letters anywhere, because all these letters are very customized, super customized. Only issue with the middle ones is I personally prefer how the O's look on the other two. Yeah, I do as well. So like it would be perfectly possible to move these two O's and put them into this one. In fact, we could probably do that in Inkscape just to like see what it looks like. So to keep it consistent, I'm gonna move this one down, and then I'm gonna so it's not gonna work perfectly because it imported this as an image, not as an SVG, but I should be able to, you know, kind of hackily put this in. I think I'm gonna actually have to make edits before I can do this. What I might try doing is actually editing out the two O's that are in here. Just give me one moment while I do that. Oh, actually, I could just use a sprite for this. That would be easier. So I'm gonna do this. So literally all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these two O's and delete them. And then we're gonna save this as a new version. Final no O. Okay, that's good. Now we will get rid of this version. Final no O. Whoop. Somehow Moon and Shire look a little disconnected visually in the last one. Yeah, I was noticing that as well. I was noticing that as well, where the S, and actually all of these letters do look a little bit thinner than these ones over here, especially with the moon shapes. The moon shapes kind of lend a very thick style to this side of the logo. So I'm with you, that could use some adjustment. What I would try doing is try thickening the outlines. Sorry, I keep jumping around, but we keep talking about cool things. Go over to this and stroke. Oh, I don't think this is actually gonna work in my... Oh, not percentage. I don't want percentage. I want pixels. Okay. So like this is what I would do is like use the outline idea. But I'll do that later because it's actually not working out very well right now. Okay, really like that. Overcoming the fear. I'm thinking about starting my own devlog on YouTube, but I'm so afraid to do it, scared of messing up or doing it wrong. Anxiety sucks. My advice is don't build it up in your head so much. Go into it expecting to mess up. If it's your first video, you're definitely, it's not going to be very good. I hate to tell you. But the goal is that when you post your first video, that's a hard step to overcome, but just post it. And then your next video, you're going to learn so much from the first one that your second video is going to be like 100 times better than your first one. And then the video after that is going to be much better too. So like don't go into it being afraid to fail. You should go into it expecting to fail and thinking, okay, how am I going to do it better the next time? But yeah, if you just like get analysis paralysis, you'll never get anything done. The trick is just to jump in. And I have to overcome that same mentality for my game because, as you guys know, I have not posted an update to Moonshire for like over 2 years. It's been a long, long time. And that's not acceptable. And what's going on is I'm doing what you're doing. I'm building it up in my head where it's like, oh, well, I have to... It's been so long, I have to make it perfect. I have to get all this stuff done. No, I really don't. I really don't. I just need to get something out the door for people to play, and then I can improve on it over time. It doesn't have to be perfect on the first shot. It'll be fine. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, no problem. So let's take these two little guys right here. You know, actually, I think that these need to be moved up so that they are level with the bottom of the end, so I'm going to make these smaller. You know, that's kind of awkward because now the M kind of needs to be moved inwards. So should I do that too? I guess we can just eyeball it real quick. It won't take long. So if I just go ahead and grab this M and move it over, doing it like this, like between two different art programs, is not wise. I normally would not do this, but the reason why I'm using Sprite to make these small edits is just because this is an image. I can't edit an image in Inkscape. Normally, I would separate out all the letters so that it would be easier to work with, you know. Because, like, you know, in this view, I would literally be able to just, like, move the letters around and adjust them. But when I'm working with this old logo, the old logo is still, like, not an SVG, so I don't have the luxury of doing that. Ooh, I don't know if I don't think I eyeballed it very well. Yeah, I really should just separate the M out. You can't select and create another layer for each letter. You can, but with here I'll just do that for the M. How about I do that for the M? I was trying to take a shortcut, but I really shouldn't. I should just like Sprite. We're gonna crop this M, and we're gonna save this as M. And then actually, now in final note O, we need to remove the M. Yeah, this is what I should have done from the start. I was trying to be a little bit cheeky. Okay, Okay. Okay. Yeah, like I said, that was annoying just because that logo was I didn't have the SVG available. Okay, there we go. That does look better. Let's make this M bigger. I think the M should be the biggest letter. Honestly, that does look good. This song was stuck in my head at night. Yeah, I feel ya. It is a good nighttime song. This is how I measure things in Inkscape, is I literally put like a block down. Actually, I'm gonna put it down on this one because I already know that this right half is aligned properly. If it wasn't, I'd be shocked. Does Moonshire have an overarching continuous story the player is actively following, like Elden Ring, or is it an adventure-based game with minor periodic plot points like Minecraft? I kind of want it to be not necessarily narrative-focused, but exploration-focused. I prefer the storytelling of Elden Ring more, where you get dropped into a world that's weird and mysterious, and you're trying to overcome or like uncover the secrets and figure out what needs to be done. You have like a general goal, but I don't want it to be so narrative based where you get like stopped with dialogue and cutscenes and stuff. I get kind of impatient with that. Radical read dude. I was literally singing that all morning. I was do 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 do. It's so good. The Mugenics soundtrack is so nice. I added 3 songs to my playlist from Mugenics. I added the rat theme. I added Alone in the Dark, and what was the last one? There's one more I added, but man, I love Mugenics. I'm excited to play it tonight. No, I chose songs that were specifically kind of not loud and would fit in the background. I felt like Catfight was a little bit too much. Even the Boneyard, that's my favorite song. I felt like that was too much even, so. Add some Toby Fox music. Oh, I have lots of Toby Fox music. I love Toby Fox. Flushed is good. I am so into the soundtrack. I wish more games had soundtracks like Mugenics, where it's just fun music. A lot of games go for atmospheric music, and I don't really enjoy soundtracks like that. I really like soundtracks like Mugenics, where it's just like fun pop. Not really pop. It's like, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, it's like folk or country music. It's really nice. But yeah, I bought the soundtrack and big fan. Let's get back to this. So I think that this is pretty good progress on the logo. This is a nice thing to have compared to. I'm gonna go ahead and export this, and so we have it as a reference. I remember it was Lonesome Road. Export. Actually, I'm gonna save this in Cinzel. I'm gonna call this Cinzel 2. Will I make another Steam demo? Yes. That really is the primary goal. But, you know, things keep happening. I'm gonna save it again as Cinzel 2 again. Whatever, it's fine. Is that Linux? No, it's Mac. I'm on Mac right now. Can you give some advice on level design? Because for me, level design is almost maybe quit my game. Level design is very hard. But level design is also like one of the last steps that I think are necessary because, for example, like Mario 64, they spent the first year of that game just putting Mario in a big empty room, no obstacles, nothing to do. It's just like a big room. And they just tweaked Mario's movement and made him feel perfect to run around and play with, even when there's nothing to do. And it's true, in Mario 64, you can just like run around and do flips and stuff, and it's just so much fun. So level design comes afterwards, and it's mainly just trying to find scenarios that feel fun to move around in. Levels that facilitate the fun design, and Mario 64 does that too, where it's just like a bunch of things that encourage you to do long jumps and triple jumps and crazy stuff. Rendering assembly was probably really hard. I can't even imagine. That sounds really intense. Still the most fun movement even nowadays. It is insane that they nailed it so long ago, and it's better than most games. I'm sure there are some games with better movement, but at the same time, it's crazy that even after all this time, it's a 64 is still a really, really good point of reference. Which one is Lonesome Road? Yeah. I love that fight, by the way. That's a really fun one. Let's see. Oh, here's another thing that we can talk about is R. The game is registered. I have an official trademark for Moonshire now. So this is one thing that I'm trying to figure out still, is when and where the R symbol goes, and if I should or where it should be included. Because if you browse through Steam games, just like on Steam they're published, none of them have the R symbol on it. That's not a thing that they have. Some of them have the TM trademark symbol, like Deltarune has the trademark symbol. Maybe I think the Star Wars games have the TM symbol, make the R really small. So like, it is really small, and I don't know what like the standard is for how small it's supposed to be. And I also don't know when and what context you're supposed to really even use this. Is the R or TM necessary in the main menu? This is how the R and TM thing works. And by the way, I'm not an expert. This is how I think it works. When you create a brand or a product or a game, in my case it's Moonshire, you can... I'm trying to think of what's the best way to even talk about this. There's things like trademark and copyright. And copyright is there to prevent people from taking your ideas, and trademarks are there to keep people from taking your names, your brand names. So the name of a game is a trademark. Again, I hope I'm explaining this right. I might not be, because I'm not an expert on this stuff at all. But since Moonshire is the name of the game and I wanted to protect the name of the game, I trademarked it. So now I own the name Moonshire, and it is registered as a trademark through the US Patent Office. So it's a legitimate thing. And it costs money and a lawyer to do that, by the way. It's not cheap. But now that I have this done, this means that I have legal precedence. If anyone tried to take the name Moonshire and use it, I would have the ability to send them some kind of legal notice to not use it, because I own the name now. But part of that process is it does expire in 10 years. You have to renew it. Part of that process of having a trademark is utilizing it and enforcing it. So this is why you see lots of legal battles over like kind of dumb, petty things sometimes, over usage of trademarks and products and stuff. It's all in the name of protecting your ownership of the trademark. So for example, I think an example I could show is Steam as a product. Steam as a platform and as a product, if you ever see the Steam name, it always has the trademark symbol next to it. And there it is. It's actually the R symbol. It's so tiny. Can I zoom in? It's very, very small, but you can see it's an R symbol. So I was reading about how Steam is very insistent about protecting their brand and their trademark. And they have a trademark on the word Steam as a platform. And so if you ever see Steam, they always put the R symbol next to it. In terms of the logo, at least. In terms of, like, talking about a header or some kind of, like, icon, you know? They always include the R symbol. And I think it makes sense. I think it definitely makes sense for them to do that because Steam, as a word, it's a very common word. Like the word Steam, you see that word in lots of contexts, more than just like games and websites. So it makes sense that they would take extra effort to protect that name because it's a valuable trademark to have. Finally made it to the stream for once. Awesome, glad you could be here. I'm building an MMORPG with C and SDL, and I'd like to say that I'm getting some ideas from your channel. That's awesome. That's cool to hear. That sounds like a very challenging project, but it also sounds like a cool one. I'm a big fan of MMOs, so that sounds fun. But long story short, all this like trademark and registration stuff, it's optional. It is not necessary. It is, well, I shouldn't say it's not necessary. I shouldn't say it's optional either. It is optional. You can release a game without doing any of this stuff because here's the other thing, is when you put out artwork or a product of some kind, there is some kind, again, I think, there's some kind of automatic natural copyright that happens where if someone tries to just like outright steal your stuff and you've posted it online, like you can't just do that. When you post something online, you do have some legal basis for that ownership, but not nearly as much compared to when you register things with like the patent office or the copyright, whatever it is. Would you recommend making your own game engine or use an existing engine or framework? I would say that if you're relatively new to game development within the first few years, definitely use an engine. I would not recommend starting off creating your own engine. That sounds hard. If you have experience coding, then I would recommend a framework. I love working with a framework, and if you have experience coding, then I enjoy that process a lot. But even still, using an engine like Unity or Godot or GameMaker, those are going to be easier to use, or at least the learning curve is going to be quicker. You're going to be able to get started quicker. And I think that for someone who's starting out, that's a really important aspect, is that you don't want to get demotivated and quit. And if you start off by making an engine and using really low-level tools and everything's really hard and complex, you're just starting off on hard mode. I think that increases the odds of you quitting substantially. I think the goal for anyone who wants to make games is to actually reach the finish line, is to do things that increase the odds of finishing rather than do things that decrease the odds of finishing, because the odds of finishing are already so low. I'm way deep into Moonshire, and like I can't even see the finish line yet. So I think you should only ever make a game engine if your game idea cannot be coded in an existing engine or framework, or if you are not. I think that making your own engine is worth it if you know how to, you have experience doing it, and there is some actual benefit from doing it. Because if you're making an engine and you're producing just like a very generic type of game that a regular engine would have been able to suffice for, I think that probably wouldn't be worth it, except for the learning process. That is worth it. You could argue that my game is kind of like a custom engine. It's not. It's running off of Love2D, but Love2D is a lightweight framework, whereas like Moonshire, I have a lot of, I call it engine code. It's all this code that is integral for the game to run. And all of this stuff that's here in this folder this is all code that I wrote myself. And these are things that would have been handled automatically by Unity or by Godot or something. There's no reason to worry about input logic or the physics logic or how Steam gets connected or what the camera, like all this stuff gets handled very, very efficiently and natively through the engine. Whereas here, I'm kind of recoding it myself or using some third-party libraries, or I don't really know. And that does add a layer of challenge there. Are there additional libraries required for Love2D? There's nothing required for Love2D, but there are some libraries that I recommend and that I use. So with Love2D, let's go over to libraries. There's this library called HUMP. It stands for Helper Utilities of something. It's something really weird. But there are a bunch of open source files in HUMP that are useful. The only ones that I use are Camera and Vector. So Camera is just like it helps with, you know, setting up a camera. And then my view camera code in the engine here takes that, what the heck, where is it? It takes that camera from HUMP and allows it to, here, yeah, it does it right here. View equals camera, and this camera function comes directly from camera.lua. And this vector.lua is also really, really awesome. It's just a very, very nice vector class. Lip service is one that I made. I don't think I posted it yet. STI is for simple tile implementations for tile, but I don't use tiled anymore for the game, so I'm going to be removing that. Animate is for animations. Really love Animate. I think it's great. Helper utilities for made-up problems. That's funny. Baton is for remapping input. Bitzer is for changing Lua into bit code, I think. JSON is a JSON parser. Lookout is, oh, this is mine. I made this. This is the parallax logic. Sock is the socket networking. UTF-8 string. This is for converting, let's see, certain strings can't render properly unless they go through this conversion. So this is like an open source thing that I downloaded. Is Love2D able to run on the browser? Yeah, it is. I wouldn't say it's intuitive though. It's not a simple process, but it definitely does. Because if you go to necrozone.com, this is one of my games that I got started with. It's not done or anything. But this game is running in the browser and it works. The process of getting it working though was kind of hacky because Love2D, even though it does have the web support, it doesn't. You have to download some extra tools to make it work. Do you use a library that adds classes? No, I just do all that I do all that myself. Any of the class logic or object-oriented design, you're able to do that natively with tables. But I bet there are some libraries that are helpful. What's your opinion on Raylib? I actually don't know anything about Raylib. Never used it. If you need to create multiple table instances, then you need something like a class. Yeah. So that's okay. I see what you're saying. That's a good call out. So although my game does not have classes, I don't use a library for classes. It does still have object-oriented structure to it. So here we have the mob file. This is for all mobs or enemies. And then here we have the different types. We have the hero mob, the dummy mob, and the slime mob. And each of those types is kind of like a class. Or it's kind of like mob is a class and dummy is a child class of mob. And when you create dummy instances, it goes through mob. It takes the information that's provided by, you know, dummy or whatever type you're using, uses that data to produce a mob that it just takes all these defaults and applies them to the mob. Did I make big games before Moonshire? No, I did not. When I was a kid, I made fan games. So I'll go ahead and pull it up. I love showing off my old YouTube channel. But if you go on YouTube and search for, it's called Game Maker Crab. So this is my old YouTube channel from when I was a kid, and I did make this Zelda fan game, and I would say this kind of counts as a big game because it was like a full-length Zelda fan game. It was custom made in Game Maker, and it's not bad. It's ugly. Oh my god! I'm so sorry, that was loud. Why was that so loud? Was that loud for you guys? I'm so sorry. That was like so loud. These videos have like built-in the audio got removed because of copyright issues. I used to hide it from you. Yeah, I used to keep it a secret. Don't worry, the music is louder. We didn't get the audio. Oh, you didn't get the audio? Good. I'm glad. Cause when I When I started the video, it just blasted the music like crazy. It was so loud. One of the worst parts about this fan game is you can see all the blue lines everywhere. And that's a problem that exists even today in Moonshire, where if you're not careful with how the tiles are organized, it can lead to these gaps. The gaps between the tiles. And these days I know how to fix it. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up an example to show how I fix it these days. What I missed while I was late? Not much, we were just chatting. And now I'm showing off one of my old fan games. So this is on YouTube. Also, it has very few likes because when this video was posted, likes and dislikes didn't exist. It was stars, I think. Hopefully. 1 subscriber, yeah. But it's funny because before I posted that video about this channel, it only had like 100 subscribers, but now it got like another 50 or something. I'm gonna pull up some tiles so I can show what I mean. So the way that line issue gets fixed, or the reason why it happens, is because when you place down a tile anywhere in the world, what the game is doing is that the game is going into this image, or it's taking a piece of this image. And when you have a piece of this image, it's pixel perfect, but sometimes when it renders this tile right here, it actually grabs a little bit of this tile because, you know, this tile is right up against this one. So sometimes while it's rendering, it will grab a little sliver from this tile. And that's why in this fan game, you can see all these blue lines, because in the tile sheet all the way back then, when I was designing it, I had a blue background. I had this big blue... come on. Big blue background. So all my tiles were organized like this. And I was thinking, well, that's fine, because if I'm just placing down the ground tiles like this tile is fully contained. You don't see any blue on this tile. But what was happening is it was bleeding over into this tile. And that's why I have this extra line of green. So the way you fix the issue is you... So this is what the tile looks like normally. And actually, I'm gonna get rid of the blue. I don't want that in the game. Or in the scene. So, sorry, I got sidetracked. That's what's called texture bleeding. I've never heard that. That makes sense. That definitely is what it is, though. I designed these tiles, and you can see that they are within their own little sections within the grid. What would happen is these tiles would bleed into this one. So in order to prevent it from being like blue or from being transparent, because it can even grab transparent colors, and that's bad too, you can take this color and add a little buffer. So I literally just draw in a green pixel around the whole thing. So whenever this tile, whenever this tile bleeds into this tile, it's going to grab this little sliver. So when this tile shows this sliver right next to it, it'll look fine. It'll look normal. Compare that to when there's nothing and it bleeds over into this tile. It would grab the transparency and you would see through the background. It would look bad. So that's why all of my tiles have this buffer. Unless it's a tile like this, where it intentionally does align up to transparency. This tile will never be up against a transparent tile because these are like interior tiles. These tiles are exterior tiles. These are meant to be on the outside, and so they do go up against transparency, which is why you don't need any sort of buffer around those. You wouldn't want one. But this one, this middle tile, does bleed into the surrounding tiles. But since this middle tile, it's already surrounded by green. It's already surrounded by green, so you don't need to add any buffer. It's going to naturally look fine if it has any bleeding. I use LibreSprite a lot. It's great software. I heard you can build Sprite from source without having to pay, I think. Yeah, that's true. So Sprite is open source as far as I know. And since that's the case, you're able to download the source code and build it. But when you do it that way, there's some convenience factor that's lost. When you pay for it, you get the automatic updates and official builds. It's also through Steam, which is convenient sometimes. Krita is nice. Yeah, I've been using Krita a little bit too. I'm still stuck on using GIMP the most for high-res artwork because I just know how to use it better than the others. But I don't like GIMP. I really don't like it. I should learn how to use Krita. There's a nifty extrude flag for doing this automatically in Sprite, where it mirrors the outermost pixel as a border when you export a tile sheet. Wow! Wow! Let me try that. I'm gonna see if I can figure it out. So first I'm gonna get rid of this. Also, I love this song. So I'm gonna try what you just suggested. Export. Borders. Extrude. Okay, I think that to do that, I would need to reorganize thing. Or, you know, what is it adding a pixel gap around the border of the whole image? I think that the extrude is actually adding it on the during my President's Day. Oh wow, I didn't even realize. We fixed, but isn't your case? Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, I see this. Okay, what this extrude option is doing is it's actually taking the full image. It's taking the full image and adding padding around it, which is still useful. So this would be useful if I had my tiles separated into individual frames or probably individual frames would be the coolest thing that you could do in Sprite. So here's what you could do, and I'm like doing this on the fly. I don't actually know if this is gonna work quite right. But you could take these different... I really want to switch back to Windows for my streams. And we're going to take this one. Okay, so what I did was, since the tile sheet is 16 by 16 images, I created a new thing that was 16 by 16, and I put each tile into its own frame. And then now, if I were to go to File, Export the sprite sheet, I think I can do... not quite. I think if I pack this, if I switch those two, like that. So now if I File, Export as sprite sheet, and then we do packed like that. Look at that, look at that. And then you can click extrude. Whoa! Oh, actually, no, that didn't work. That didn't work. No, look, it added it around each tile still. That's not what I would want. Well, maybe it is, actually, because this is still an okay way to do it, I think. Here, what would this look like? Did that add 2 or did that add 4? I think it adds 4. Yeah, I think that what this is doing is taking each tile and adding a border around each tile. That's not exact. Well, that is what I want. I finished my first game. It's an RPG made in Godot from inspiration from you. Awesome. Since you're more experienced, can you give feedback? Yeah, absolutely, sure. No, you can't send links. If you want someone to play your game, you can go to the Discord or something like that. But a word of warning with sharing games is that it's kind of risky to run other people's to download other people's games and run them on your computer. I talk about this a lot. I got hacked because I downloaded like someone's game and it ended up being a virus, and that's really changed my perspective on sharing and playing other people's games. That's kind of why I think web support is so important now. And it's really important to just not really... I'll do an itch. Even itch doesn't really solve the problem. If it's a game that needs to be installed or that you run locally, it's going to require users to download the program and run it. And there are no operating systems out there that will just allow you to run a game like that by default. It will allow you to overrun it, to override that block. But the whole idea is, when you run software on your computer from someone who's unverified, who knows? Who knows what kind of software they're running on your computer? Sure, like, Utmost Gold, I believe that you're just sending out a game. I'm sure it's fine. But wouldn't it be a really good hacking strategy to pretend to be a game developer and send out a game to people that's actually a virus? That's why you shouldn't run games on your computer. Unless the developer is verified. When you run games through Steam, those games are verified. It actually connects someone's identity to the game, and so there's accountability. But when you download a game from itch and you run it on your computer, it's probably not going to be verified unless that developer like actually takes some very, very intense steps to get it verified. And if an app is unverified, like Windows is going to block it from running when someone installs it. And the only way that they're going to be able to run it is if they ignore the warning and override it and run anyway, which I don't recommend anyone do that. So I like, is it too hard to get verified on Steam? So verification means you are giving some organization your personal information or your business entity information if you have that. And then when they have your information, that information gets attached to your app when you send it out. And when the app gets run, it kind of compares that certificate of authenticity to make sure it's legit. And then if there are any viruses in that software, your personal information is attached to it, so you get in trouble for sending out viruses. So it's basically just like an incentive not to share malware when it's verified. We were talking about links and like tag downloads. Well, so with Steam, And with Itch, with any of these organizations that verify you, you just give them your information and they are able to verify you. But it does tend to involve giving like an address, a phone number, your name, an email. And I think on Steam, it really does want you to have a business entity. You might be able to post as an individual, but it's definitely much easier if you have a business entity of some kind. So that all being said, it's not easy to distribute software. Wait, why is my shirt still on? I don't know. Maybe after stream. I set mine up with by rows and fixed number of columns and layout, sprite grid as sort and sprite, and then the extrude works for a typical tile set texture. Maybe that's what you have set up now. I mean, maybe by rows. And then extrude. It's still doing the same thing, but that's fine. He said he usually streams shirtless. No, I don't do that. Normally not. No. I actually never thought about it. I'll add web support, make it easy for others to playtest. Yeah, I think that's the best option if you're able to. The tricky part, like it's hard. It's hard to post a game and make it playable in a browser. And that is something that a lot of engines do support. So like Unity does support that, and Godot supports that as far as I know. And that's nice that it has that option, because I think these days, like with Unity, a lot of them do run in the browser, which is really nice. That makes it a lot easier. It takes a lot of prep from what I can tell. GameMaker as well. I use GameMaker. Yeah, GameMaker is really good. I used GameMaker for a very, very long time while I was first learning. In fact, I don't know if I even mentioned this, but like this video or this game was all made in GameMaker. GameMaker is the best. I really love it. I moved on from GameMaker to Love2D when I was in college. Because when I was in college, I wanted to get more like experience developing things with written code. Because GameMaker is nice because it has like the drag and drop coding system. And it's really approachable. That's the best part about it, is that especially if you're a young person or if you're just not very familiar with coding, you're new to it, working with GameMaker feels a lot easier to pick up. Now, I wouldn't say GameMaker is easy. There's still some challenges with it. It's still hard to make games. It's always going to be hard. There's no easy engine. But there are some engines that are more approachable, and I do think that GameMaker is one of the most approachable ones, while also still being super, super good and powerful. Because you have lots of games that were made with GameMaker. You got, like, Undertale and Hyper Light, and I think Vampire Survivors as well. Did I use GML at all, or just drag and drop? I did not use GML at all. I only used the drag and drop. Deltarune, yeah, exactly. I was able to make these full games just with the drag and drop coding system. And like this game that we're watching right now, this is all just baseline GameMaker. There's no like library or anything. It's just GameMaker, and I managed to figure out how to do all this stuff. GameMaker is less intimidating. I think that's a very important aspect for people starting out. It's the same with like learning an instrument. If you're learning how to play guitar, you wouldn't start out with a really, really hard song. That's probably not a really good example. I'll talk about bass guitar. So I play bass, and if someone was wanting to learn how to play bass, you have options. You could buy a 4-string bass, or you could go all out and buy like a Primus 7-string bass, because those exist. But I wouldn't recommend going for a Primus 6 or 7-string bass when you're starting out, because it's not as approachable. A 4-string bass is much more approachable compared to a 5 or 6-string one, just because there's less to keep track of. It's less space. You can fit your hand on the strings better. It's just easier to use. But when you're really talented at bass, having a 6-string bass is helpful, because it allows you to hit more notes with less like movement around the neck. And so what I'm getting at is a framework or something that's more complex than GameMaker is most useful for people that have the experience to make use of it. If you don't have the experience to make use of it, it doesn't really. I don't think that the benefit shines through as much compared to GameMaker. GameMaker really does feel approachable. Where making 2D games is it feels very natural. Also, more strings, more money. Very good point. It is more expensive, and bass strings are kind of expensive compared to guitar strings, at least. Del Screen is a parallel story. Yeah, it's like it's a semi-sequel. I think that canonically it does take place after Undertale, but they are disjointed in a way. GameMaker crew, let's go. I actually have never used the drag and drop. I've learned the written code right away. Awesome. That's so funny to hear about that, because I think a lot of people are like that as well. I think a lot of people use GML as like their primary way of developing, but I find that so surprising just because I've always used the drag and drop. I found the drag and drop system to be so intuitive that I never really felt the need to switch over to GML. What do I use for sound effects? I'm having trouble finding a good way to make some. Great question. So there are a few things that I use. One, I make a lot of my sound effects using a program called FamiTracker, which I wouldn't... One second, the FamiTracker site is not secure. It's not an HTTPS, that's really annoying. But FamiTracker is... This is a program that allows you to write music that would run on NES hardware. It's actually amazing that this exists because 2015, this is old. Isn't the site like 25 years at the point? Yeah, it is. It is. This latest news post is from 2015. Yeah, I don't know if FamiTracker is the thing to use anymore, but I used FamiTracker a lot when I was growing up because I loved chiptune music. And what FamiTracker is it just lets you use the sound chip. Essentially, it lets you emulate the sound chip and create music that would be able to run on NES hardware. You can actually export the FamiTracker tracks and load it onto NES hardware, and it will play in the same way that real NES music would run. It's awesome. It's awesome. Because it was created before HTTPS existed. I bet this was created after HTTPS existed, but it wasn't as normalized because HTTPS is a bit more normalized now. Now it's so rare to run into a site that doesn't use HTTPS just because a lot of the hosting providers just naturally include it. I'm working on a 16-bit game, so old chiptune stuff works great. Yeah, that's awesome. Word of warning, though, it is a challenging program to use. It's not as intuitive as something like FL Studio or LMMS, where you place notes on a timeline. Well, you do place notes on a time. You'll see what I mean. It's a little bit more challenging to use. But the whole idea behind this is that since you're able to emulate the NES sound chip and produce like the sounds that the NES and I think some other chips as well, you're able to just generally synthesize sound effects. And you can apply things like fade outs or wobble or slides, and all of those can make the sound effects sound pretty good. And I don't even like it's amazing that people back in the day used to make really complex sound effects using a program like this. I'm thinking of like early Pokemon, how all the Pokemon had their own cry, and it was just like a bunch of like weird noises that sounded like an animal, kind of. But they made all these sounds using these crazy compressed, weird synthesized noises that the Game Boy was able to produce. FL Studio is intuitive. I can't look at the UI without thinking of airplane control panels. I understand that. That makes I get you. FL Studio is probably not as approachable as a lighter weight DAW, but I've used a lot of DAWs. I've used Reaper, FL Studio, and LMMS. And probably at least one other one, if you count FamiTracker as a DAW. But all of those have a very similar setup, where it's a large timeline with a big set of mixers, with a big set of tracks and instruments, and they're all over the place. I really feel like FL Studio is one of the more intuitive ones compared to the other DAWs. But I bet when it comes to music, something like GarageBand is way more approachable compared to FL Studio. There are definitely some beginner-friendly software that would be better to like get started with. Do you think it's better LMMS or Reaper? I think they are both good, but since LMMS is fully free and Reaper has a license attached to it, I would go with LMMS at first. But also, they are both free to download and try out, so I would just try them both out. I think that what you'll find is that they are not that much different. I use FL Studio for my music, but I noticed that all of the features that I use in FL Studio already exist in LMMS. But FL Studio costs money, and LMMS is free. I think that FL Studio can do like I think that LMMS can do like 95% of the things that FL Studio can do. But then FL Studio has like some extra libraries or plugins or things like that makes it a little bit easier. The Game Boy can actually make crazy good sound effects, soundtracks. It was just very much underutilized. Same with NES, SNES, which is why Tim Follin really is seen as chiptune god. Wow, yeah, I'm totally with you. And Game Boy, I definitely know it can make good sound effects, because have you ever seen those people that make like beats or like they're DJs and they have a Game Boy next to their mixing set? It's awesome. It's just so cool that you can attach the hardware to like your synth setup and use that sound chip in your own beats. It really is amazing. I think it was called LMDJ. Is that what it's called? No, it's not that. What was it called? Game Boy sound mixer software. I thought it was called something DJ. Oh, it is. It's called Little Sound DJ. I was wrong. It's LSDJ. And oh, look at it, the sequencer. This is how Family Tracker works. So I think that's kind of the difference between a DAW and a sequencer. LSDJ and Family Tracker, these are sequencers where you place notes in just like a grid going top from bottom like this, and it's really kind of tedious to work with. But each one of these note placements corresponds to an instrument, and then you can attach effects as well. But yeah, I've always wanted to try something like this. So does this have the sound chip emulation included? I bet it does. Using assets can be great. I use assets a lot, but assets exist too. How do you manage to learn everything in game dev, like learning coding, art, music? Yeah, so like they were saying, there is no shame in using some free or open source or even some paid assets. My game, Moonshire, has a bunch of paid assets. If I go into the game, like even this background I purchased from itch.io, and then I edited it to match my style and match my color scheme. A lot of these ground tiles originally came from a paid asset pack, but then actually I commissioned a different tile artist to make custom sprites. So the cliffs and the ground stuff is custom. These trees came from an asset pack. And I split them up into the different layers and added the wobbly animation to it. This kiln came from an asset pack. These logs, this barrel, this. Actually, I think that the anvil I made, I can't remember. See, isn't that funny when you work on a game for so long, you start to forget about all these details. Who made the rocks? One second. The rocks were made. So this is what happened. I had a rock sprite that looked like this that I got from an asset pack. And I think that same sprite is what's in the Steam demo that's posted right now. But then at some point, I decided I don't like that rock sprite, and so I paid Ellie, one of the other artists, to make this sprite and this sprite. But her version did not look like these. Did not look like these two. Her versions were bigger and more detailed, and I shrunk them down and removed a bit of the detail to make them look like this. So the question of who made these rocks is, I don't know. Someone made the original draft, and then Ellie edited them to make the more modern shape and detail scheme, and then I shrunk it and adjusted the style to match the rest of the game. So that's how these rocks came to exist. And then these two rocks over here, I think I made these myself. I made the player myself. The walking animation I made myself, although I did pay Tris Pixels to help with the walking animation, but his draft I ended up he helped with identifying like the keyframes, but I still spent a lot of time myself making this walking animation work. CTC chat, thank you for being here. Appreciate you stopping in, Utmost Gold. Can you show how your own map editor works? Yeah, I can show it off a little bit. Sorry, there's a quirk of Mac where if I right click on a window, it doesn't focus the window. It drives me nuts. You have to actually click on it. Is publishing on Steam hard? Yeah, I'd say it's hard. Well, I wouldn't say it's hard for a kid. It's hard for someone who doesn't have like their own identity yet. So in order to register on Steam, one, it costs $100. Two, you have to give your business entity information if you have that. It might not even be possible without a business entity. I really do recommend having an LLC. So then the question is, how hard is it to set up an LLC? In some states it's kind of easy. Where I'm from, it's not terrible. It was pretty easy to get an LLC set up, and it wasn't terribly expensive. But like we're talking a few $100s for the business entity, and then $100 for the Steam account, and yeah, so the main challenge with publishing to Steam is getting your identity and business set up so that Steam will accept you. And then after that, it is kind of challenging to like work with it because you have to set up the deployment process, and there's some security stuff. You have to set up the Steam page. It's kind of time consuming, but all of that stuff is more time consuming than challenging. The challenge more is figuring out all the details to get up and running. So it is still a challenge to get up on Steam. They make it a little bit hard, but the challenge does also weed out a lot of the lower quality content. Back in the day, they used to have something called Steam Greenlight. A lot of people might remember that. Steam Greenlight was a program where if you wanted your game to get on Steam, you had to post the game to Steam, and then people would vote if they wanted to allow it onto the platform, which is a weird concept now that I'm thinking about it, where like there was no guarantee that your game would even get on Steam in the first place. You would have to produce a trailer and like maybe even a demo that would convince people to vote for your game, and then once you got enough votes, then you would be allowed to have an actual like Steam page. And when that setup was in place, I have to imagine that the amount of like garbage, low quality content was pretty low at the time, because how would they be getting past the voting process if the game was bad? But I bet people still did, and now today they just removed Greenlight altogether, where anyone can create an account and pay the $100 as long as they give up their personal information. They'll be able to post. Do you have to do internationalization or just English fine? You don't have to do internationalization. I'm going to localize it to a bunch of different languages, but Steam does not require you to localize it. It can just be English. But I assume that the more translations, the more localizations you have, the more accessible it is. So that's always something to keep in mind. But like the thing about accessibility or localization, for example, if I spent time localizing the game to a certain language, it takes a while to do that. It takes a while to get all of that stuff organized and hiring the right people and getting it tested, and working out any of the like regional issues that might come up. That takes time, and there's an opportunity cost to spending time on that. If you're spending time working on localization, that means that you are not spending time working on the game itself. So that's kind of why I don't really... I'm not thinking too hard about localization for now until the game is in a solid place, because it's just like, it's priorities, you know. Can you turn into a slime again, please? I think that I just go over to player. We'll change this to slime. Oh, the game crashed. It actually crashed really hard. It crashed worse than normal. Oh, what? Why did it break? Also, I don't like... I really want to go back to Windows. I just know... Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Okay, we're back. I don't know why it crashed. That doesn't make sense. Okay, we're back to slime mode. A GPU driver bug. Wow, that'd be crazy. Chappy helping with game bugs unintentionally. I mean, that's nothing new. I love having people here to give me feedback and advice and just letting me know about things that are not working right. Why are you on Mac? Last time I was on Mac, on Linux freshly. Yes, the reason I switched to Mac is because the PC that I built, the Linux and Windows machine, the performance just was not there. While I'm streaming, I am streaming I'm streaming to the internet, and I'm also recording the video, and I'm recording the audio separately, and I'm also playing the game, and I have multiple browser windows open, and I have OBS open, and I'm interacting with all these files, and I have GIMP open, and I have Sprite open. The computer wasn't able to handle it. The computer wasn't able to handle it. You think the performance is best? I think that my problem is the video card. Is that the video card just gets eaten up with VRAM, because it only starts to struggle visually in the game. The rest of the computer doesn't seem like it's having any issues, but the game can't lag at all. Otherwise, like, it shows up in the recording, and I really, really don't want that. So as much as I would prefer using Windows or Linux, I had problems with Linux too, by the way, with recording and streaming. There were problems with Linux where it was like flashing weird, like rendering artifacts all over the screen. It was very annoying. Did I pick the game idea or genre after a market research, so I just like it? I did not do any market research. I literally just made a game that I thought would be good and that I'd like. I don't really know how I feel about the idea of like market research in games, because I don't know. The idea of business as a game, or games as a business, it just doesn't sit well with me. And maybe market research is something that is important or useful, but I don't really feel like... I feel like good games are just good ideas. It's not really what the market wants. I'm sure there are... When I hear market research for games, to me that kind of reads like what a company would do. That reads of like a corporation did market research and they discovered that people like live service games. And so Sony commissions several companies to produce live service games. And I think that's not really the best strategy. Like, the benefit of doing that is that you know that there's an audience for the thing that you're producing, but if you don't produce a good version of what you're trying to get, then people aren't going to play it. Jelly Powder, stop being weird. A bit late, but it just downloaded the demo now. I'll play it later. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Is it tough to make the game running also on other OS? It's not hard to make the game run on other OS, but it is hard to export, package, and distribute the game on other OSs. So, like I'm saying, I'm running the code right now on my computer, and I have it tested and working on Mac, on Linux, on Windows. It works on any computer. But it is not easy to... But now that it's working on all these computers, the challenge is I need to package the game, put it on the internet, on Steam, and allow people to download it, install it to their computer, and then run it, and then it needs to work at that point. That's the part that's hard. Making it run natively on a computer is easy. It's just like, especially if you're using like Love2D. Love2D runs on all operating systems, so it only takes a few tweaks in order to get the game working in all those different environments. But then the challenge is getting it distributed, because packaging it requires packaging like here, I'll be able to show this. In the code down here at the bottom, I should organize this better, but I have all of these. They're called DLLs, or binaries is what you would call them. LuaSteam.dll. You can't even look at it because it's just data. This is essentially a package that my program main.lua actually executes and utilizes. It utilizes this LuaSteam.dll in order to communicate with Steam. And same with Steam API. Is this as well? I can't actually remember. I think Steam API is needed for it to connect to Steam in the first place. And then LuaSteam is used to call Steam-specific functions. So you need LuaSteam and you need the Steam API, which getting these built was its own challenge too. So long story short, when I compile the game for Windows, it grabs all of these files, but it does not... I'm explaining this so poorly. Windows will use this file and this file. It'll use these two. Mac is going to use this file and this file. The binaries are different. So if you want to package and distribute your game on different operating systems, you need to procure the LuaSteam DLL for Windows and the LuaSteam SO for Mac. They're different formats. And that's a big challenge, is getting the libraries to be cross-platform. They're actually not cross-platform. It's a different library per platform. There's a LuaSteam Windows version and a LuaSteam Mac version. And if I wanted a Linux build, I would need a LuaSteam Linux version. Or actually, Linux might be able to use the SO version. I don't know how Mac works exactly. But Mac is Linux-based or Unix-based. So it might be able to have the same crossover. And my example of that actually is my overlay. The overlay that's above my head, the chat system. I have a script that makes it run on Windows, and then I have a script that makes it run on Mac. And then the Mac script actually works on Linux as well, so it just worked automatically. So my overlay software works on any computer as well. I heard Steam will send switches to developers if they show promise. Interesting, I never heard that. We'll send switches. Or like Steam Decks? Do you use them during runtime or build time? They're used... I think they're used during runtime because of how Love2D operates, but I'm embarrassed that I don't actually have a confident answer for that. I'm on this part in Mario. Oh man, I love Mario Odyssey. So good. Really, really love it. Can you add like cross-platform with Windows and Mac and Love? Well, so that's what I'm showing, is that I'm using, this is a Love 2D game, and Love 2D will run on Mac or Windows. But packaging it is the hard part. Can you add like cross-platform with Windows and Mac? That's the thing, is that you need to have you have the Windows app and you have the Mac app. There is no app on the planet, as far as I know, where it runs the exact same on Windows and Mac, unless it was being emulated through some like middleware. So since that's the case, you really are producing completely different apps. One is the Windows app, one's the Mac app. And those apps have completely different dependencies, which are these binaries that I'm talking about. And since they're so different, like it all just feels, it's disconnected is what I'm saying. It would be nice if there was a way to make it more cohesive. I think that's kind of the point you're trying to make, is that it's awkward. My system is awkward, how the apps are separated, but I don't know how to avoid that. They require different binaries, so I think they just have to be separated. Lua looks so beautiful for some reason. I agree, it really does. When the code is written, honestly, whenever any code is written nicely with any language, it always looks good. But something about Lua is very aesthetic. I think something about I like the then and end notation. I know some people wouldn't like that. I also like being able to put everything on one line, because when you have one-liners like this, it makes the whole page more concise. A big problem with my game is that the line count gets so high. Like 220 is not long. This is a small file. But we compare that to something like Level. This one's not too bad either. This one's 770. I know I have worse ones. This one's 530. So when I rewrote the project, I was able to organize it way better. I'm wondering if I have any that are worse than that. Level might be the worst one. And like 700 lines, that's a lot of lines, don't get me wrong. But it could be worse. Oh, there's definitely UI. No, this is okay too. Maybe layout? I remember one of these is just ridiculous. These are okay. They're pushing it. For every major platform and CPU architecture, ARM versus Intel. Oh, that's the other thing. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Mac, there are two types of Macs. I don't know if you knew this. There is the modern Macs. The one that I'm running currently is running on Apple Silicon, is what they call it. So if you ever see like the M2, M3 chips, M number, those are Apple Silicon chips. It's an entirely custom architecture that Apple invented, vertically integrated. The chip has RAM and VRAM and processing included on the chip itself. It's amazing. It's groundbreaking. But since that's the case, it's an entirely different architecture. So this code, the LuaSteam SO, and these two files, these were built for Apple Silicon. These were built for the modern Macs. But if you tried to run the game on a Mac that's using an Intel chip, because there's lots of those too, they just don't make them anymore. They're from like 8 years ago and later. Those use Intel chips, and they need to use a different type of binary from these two, because these were made for Silicon, and then you need to find a different Mac specific. Again, even though these DLLs, these Windows ones, were made for Intel, or I guess, is it for Intel, or because I'm sure AMD would work as well. M is for metal. I don't know. Are you fine with someone taking inspiration from Moonshire? Absolutely. I take inspiration from other games. I understand that thought process, because it's scary when like you're seeing ideas and you're thinking, I don't want to steal people's ideas. I don't want to steal people's ideas either. But inspiration is everywhere. This music that we're listening to right now, I am certain that the musician who wrote the song listened to other music in his lifetime and that's what eventually led to him making that song. You can't really avoid inspiration. I'm inspired by things all the time. You don't have to support everything. I think Windows initially should be fine. You're right that I don't need to support everything. You are right. The more I can support, in the long run, the better. And that's why it actually took me a long time before I made the Mac build. It was Windows only for the first several years of development. Because whenever you package the game and distribute it, that's a lot of work to do. And if you have to do that process for every individual operating system, well, suddenly every release gets longer. So it makes sense while I'm at this stage in development to keep it a low number of platforms, just Windows, even Mac. Like, that's not really that important right now. Have I heard of Teal? It's a typed version of Lua. I've tried to use this, but it has poor LSP. I'm not familiar with Teal and LSP. I'm not sure what that means either. Something performance? You don't have to... Yeah, how do you make the UI for Moonshire if you don't have, like, drag and drop like Game Maker? Yeah, great question. And the answer is... very difficultly. It's not easy. It's very hard, is what I'm trying to say. So my UI is always custom. Every game I make always has fully custom UI that's deeply integrated with the game. So I have this concept where the UI is the master class. It has a child class called form, and a form is like the page. A UI could have multiple pages. The form is one page. So then I can go over into form.lua, and then form is like a container. The form is a container. So the UI is the overarching world that we're in, the UI. The form is like the page, the container. The form contains several layouts. So we'll go over to the layouts. The layouts are these sequences, like the main menu. The main menu has a layout that contains this sequence of buttons, and then you can apply like different properties, like I have it set to center. And that's why when I open up the main menu, we can see these buttons all matched right here. So, oh yeah, Wolf was the one that requested the Mario and Luigi music. The reason why I have it set up this way is because now it's very easy for me to put buttons in. And this layout concept is very... I made it very powerful. I made it very powerful where you can add extra like parameters. So here I have a graphic and it's the logo. And I have the scale factor set to 0.5. That's why when I start the game, the logo is not too big. But if I change this to like 1.5, nothing happened. Did anything change? No, it's not working. It's actually not working. Why is that not? Actually, this would be under... We're gonna try and fix it. I think that the scale factor is just not getting passed into this. I think the scale factor is not being passed in when the layout generates this graphic. I don't think it's passing the scale factor in. Set defaults. It's all right here though. Set defaults? Is this overriding it? No. What if I change this? Nope, still nothing. Create graphic. Oh, maybe it's being passed into here. It's still the same thing, though. Oh, yeah, this is the same one. Never mind. Oh, maybe it's not using scale factor? Oh, it's not, look. Yeah, it's not. Times self dot scale factor. Or well, I'll put this one down actually. Okay, so I think that this 0.5 was just broken. I don't think it was ever working. Hey! It does work now. What the heck? Why didn't that work? Times scale factor. Is it being double applied? Oh, widget dimensions already include scale factor. Never mind. Thank you, comment. Okay, that did not fix it. It says the widget dimensions. Widget? Well, the widget is... What's generating the widget? Actually, it's the form that generates the stuff. Sorry while I sift through all this stuff. Yeah, I wish I fixed that quick, but I don't really think I did. Form factory. So somewhere in here, it's iterating through the layout. Store args on layout for token substitution. That to args, so it's applying the args to itself. So we're gonna check something. Well, I can't do that in mind. If self that scale factor. Let's see if this line is being hit. I don't think it is. I'm gonna try and run the game. Am I able to do this? Because what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to see what is print scale factor found set to whoops set to self dot scale. If args dot scale factor, then print args dot scale factor. So I'm trying to see if we can if we can see these prints show up. And on Mac, I can't get the little console window to open up, so I have to run it through the terminal. I think I just stayed love. Uh-oh. How could I run this? I can't remember how I can run this. Print except commas to concatenate. Oh! I didn't actually know that, so you can do this? Wow, that's cool. I didn't actually realize you could do that. I'm so used to the dot notation. So the struggle that I'm having right now, at this moment, is that I can't see my console window because the console window through Love2D is only supported through Windows. When you're on Mac, like I'm on Mac right now, the console window does not pop up. There is none. So if you want to see the print statements, you have to run the game through the terminal, which you can do. Oh, here, actually, I have another idea. I can go here. I can go to... Go to settings. Here we go. This is what I need. This is such a dumb hacky solution. But I think I can just do this. Yeah, look at that. Okay, it worked. So now we can see what the console says. Output, or... Okay, now we can see what it's saying. It doesn't look like that. Yeah, it didn't reach those lines. Let's put another print in real quick. Where was that? Where did I make those changes? Here it is. Both ifs failed. Yeah, that's what it seems like. So that makes me think that scale factor is not actually getting passed into the form. So the form comes from the UI form. Somewhere in here, it starts the form args. It's right here. It's right here. It's passing it in. System.scaleFactor. System.scaleFactor. Why is system.scale? That's not right. What's system.scaleFactor? System. UI show layout system. Okay, what is system? Because I think system needs to include the layout args. It might be self. It is. This is like some prime coding music. Something about it makes me focus. Okay. Yeah, look, it's not passing it in. Show layout. Was it show layout? Where was that? Oh, that was under UI. There we go. The layout args are not being passed in. They're not being passed in at all. Unless it's being set on system, which is also fine. Or are these layout args not even being used? No, they are. They are. Final config. Does this include the args? Args. These args are for the UI, not for the form or the layout. So it actually needs to come from the layout. Get layout ID. You can pass system as layout args.system and eliminate this. Yeah, I definitely could clean this up. I don't like having so many parameters to these functions. I prefer having one parameter for the ID and then one parameter for the args, and then, yeah, nothing else is necessary. Silk Song, oh man, this song is so good. It makes it like it gives me PTSD, but I love this song so much. This is just a layout ID. Show layout. Why would the show layout need to include any ARGs? I'm sorry, I'm kind of struggling on this. Because the system is just the layout, isn't it? Check current system for custom get layout function. Game that you had a system. I don't even know what the system concept means. How long have I been developing this game? For quite a long time. You know, you could say that Legend of Luo is where it started, so that would be like 5 years ago. You could also argue that like my Zelda fan games are where it started. Look where system is declared? Sure, let's do that. System is passed in from show layout. So I actually need to see where... system name, system. Get system from system name, okay. So there's like a list of systems here. What? This is dumb. Self-system name. Dude, I hate that. I hate that. So the system name... Oh, the systems are, I'm trying to remember what these even are. And what if system is nil? System can't be nil. It would crash here. Like a module loader. I think that the problem is probably much simpler than I'm making it out to be. So it gets the system. And this part just stops the current system. We get the system. Self-system name. .id final config. This is messy. It is a little bit messy. UI always gets very messy. Ask AI. I'll ask AI later if I really can't figure it out. But I want to understand why this parameter isn't being passed all the way through. I'll probably give it another 5 minutes and then I'm gonna call it for the day. But I do think that the problem lies in that show layout is not passing in all of its parameters, because there's this layout args. Or maybe these are like custom args that you can apply to it. It's not the ones that are built into the layout. And actually, it wouldn't be the layout args, it's the individual component args. I think I'm looking at the wrong spot. I think I am looking at the wrong spot. I think I need to go to the individual form start. I think it's going to be in form. Because it's going to iterate through all of the items. Where's that iteration at? Panel sprite, offset, blocks. Oh, maybe it's in block. Dude, the reason why this is so complex is because the UI, like when I was explaining this earlier, I missed a layer. There's a block layer. Because you have the UI, which houses the form, which houses the layout, which houses the block, which houses the widget, which houses the button. That's how the UI works. And I think that one of these parameters is not being passed in. Where, what was the graphic? Args. Is the args not being constructed properly? Create layout element args. Args equals, that's correct. Have to go. Thank you for stepping in. Pass layout link to widget args of avail. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So it's like a layer system? Yeah, it's that each layer corresponds to one task. Because the problem with the old UI that I wrote was that it was one UI file and it was 2,000 lines long. It was horrible. It was so bad. So the layering system is much more organized and it's easier to pinpoint where an issue is occurring. I do think the issue is occurring between where the block creates the graphic, because the graphic looks fine. All of the scaling stuff seems fine here, right? I can change this to like 10, right? No, that didn't work. Oh my gosh, this is sad. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to step through this more because I'm kind of struggling a little bit. But yeah, on that note, I'm going to call it quits for today. I've been watching you progression for some time now. You're amazing, brother. Keep it up. Keep pushing. I love how you break down what you're doing and why you're doing it. Thank you. Appreciate you saying that, Mr. Sample. That's a good note to end the stream on. Really appreciate everyone for being here today. It was a great stream, and I will be back next week for yet another Moonshire Monday, and I will have more stuff to show. Probably going to be working on more mobs. I know that's what I said last week, but that's what I think I'm going to be doing this time. And don't forget, I'm going to be streaming tonight at, I'll say, I'm going to stream tonight at 7 Central on Twitch, on my Chalakay Twitch channel. The whole point of that is to test out the overlay, because my overlay software is custom code that I wrote, and I've been testing it out on YouTube, but now I want to try it out on Twitch. So tonight I'm going to play Mugenics on stream at 7 Central. And I'll see you all there. Bye, everyone. Thanks. Oh, I don't have my outro screen again, so bye.